If you've got Mwanga, Barrett and McKenzie to choose from for the All Blacks first 5 for this year against the South Africans, that's a hell of a lot better for me than having just 2 to choose from. That means that those guys are all going to have to up their game.
Well, see, I think the fixtures are fast, to be perfectly
No,
honest.
I think it's great. It's something just a bit different and interesting.
Go the Chiefs.
Go the Reds. There's that little bit of hope.
And if the Reds win, are you going to say you're going to win the Bledisloe?
No, we got to beat the Lions first.
Okay.
Imagine winning the Bledisloe and beating the Lions in 1 year. We don't even have a bloody coach.
Welcome to the DSPN.
He's given him. Oh, there you go. He was forward.
Oh, a punch up now in midfield. Fraser's involved.
The Devlin Sports Podcast Network.
Welcome to the podcast, people. Marty Devlin, Lachlan Waugh, another edition of the DSPN. Greg Martin joins us out of Australia today. Ex-Wallaby fullback. Loves his Queensland. And of course, his Reds are top of Super Rugby at the moment. And 4 Aussie teams still in the top 6 after 7 rounds. Miles Davis, blah, 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 as always on a Thursday. And the Tide 5, where we tackle 5 separate topics of the day, including Richie Mwanga and Aaron Smith. Now, these two could be selected to play in the Anzac team, the combined team, to play the British and Irish Lions. Question being, and I want you to comment and debate this one, if they were available for selection for the All Blacks this year, would you choose them? Would they be your number 1, number 9, number 10 combination ahead of Roy Guard / Bowden Barrett / Damien McKenzie or whoever Razor Robertson decides to choose? Leave us a comment across social media, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or right here on the DSPN YouTube channel. And tomorrow, Feedback Friday Comment Corner, we comment on all the comments that you send in and comment on us. As well as that, I always ask, and thank you for it, if you can push that subscribe button. We're well over 5,500 subscribers on YouTube now, and we need to get to 10,000 as quick as we possibly can. Thank you so much for that. If there's somebody else that you know that would like, you think, to listen to the podcast or watch what we put out on YouTube, let them know and tell them also, on our behalf, please, to hit that subscribe button. We thank you so much for that.
We live in an amazing, amazing world, and it's wasted on the crappiest generation of just spoiled idiots.
Now get this, here's some truth. The 38th America's Cup was never coming back to Auckland. Let me repeat that. It was never coming back to Auckland. If you want me to repeat that, it was never, ever coming back to Auckland. It wasn't. And all the players, from local body politicians to the Prime Minister, now flooding our media coverage here with their PR rubbish excuses of, oh, how I wish we could, but for whatever reason it isn't. We can't. Claptrap. It's exactly that. It's just fluff and guff stuff. We spoke about this months ago. In fact, as soon as Auckland City Council's events arm began talks with Team New Zealand about it all. The reality was no, there was never a hope. And forget about any time in the near future as well. This event has both outgrown and surpassed any efforts we have to probably host it ever again. We are simply no longer in the race, just like the opponents who try and wrest it off us. And that's because of one thing and one thing only. Moolah, money, Jack Dash, the cash. You see, we cannot simply compete with the fat cat wallets being waved from overseas. Right from the start, Team New Zealand boss Grant Dalton said to rehost in New Zealand, it would need funding from 3 separate sources: local government, central government and private enterprise. It immediately becomes a political decision a year out from an election that no government wants to make. The America's Cup costs a massive amount to host. Forget the 75 million Mr. Luxon says, it's somewhere in the hundreds of millions. It's both a cash-rich as well as cash-costly event. Research out of Barcelona last year boasted of an economic benefit to that city of almost 2 billion New Zealand dollars. Now, on the surface, it sounds like a brilliant return on investment, doesn't it? You spend 100 million, you make $1 billion. However, there's also great suspicion always around just how these figures are calculated. The last couple of cups that we did host were also touted as having created telephone number type wealth for this country in terms of jobs and industry and tourism, infrastructure, and a whole heap of other intangibles. Some of all of that is true. But there's also an added truth which says those doing the research are always commissioned by those who pushed to host the event in the first place. Conflict of interest? Hell yes. No one with an economic agenda to prove about anything ever publishes a report or research that's counterproductive to the message that they are publicly peddling. The conclusions are and always will be all that glitters is gold. Auckland especially, and I'm talking infrastructure-wise, has done very well from the America's Cup. But has it really benefited anyone or anything else outside the Queen City? To me, it's a bit like asking how the Sail GP in Littleton Harbour helped out Hamilton's economy. In the end, it comes down to who is prepared to pay the most for it. Grant Dalton is the ultimate pragmatist. He goes where the biggest bucks are. So back to the general election coming at the end of next year. Was this cash-strapped government, struggling at the moment in the polls, ever really going to risk the wrath of voters outside of Auckland by committing hundreds of millions of dollars to the America's Cup when there's so many more immediate and worthy projects crying out for cash? No. Roads, health, education, infrastructure in the provinces, more police on the beat. Look, the list is endless as well, you know. It would be great for it to happen again, and I genuinely one day hope maybe it will. But it was never going to be the next edition planned for 2027. My pick is, I don't know, somewhere else in the Mediterranean where the super yachts and the supermodels and the super rich hang out, or if not, Saudi Arabia. And the Saudis will get it eventually. I repeat, we were never in the race, and all this hand-wringing media coverage we're getting is nothing but attempted political point scoring. Oh, we did our best, we tried our best, we did everything we could. Bollocks, mate. The truth is, from the word go, the actuality of Auckland hosting the next America's Cup was about the same as Grant Dalton saying, we're going to share our technology with all the other syndicates to make it more competitive. It was never going to happen.
Martin Devlin. The Type 5.
Which means 5 separate sporting topics, Lachlan. We might even do 6. We can do 5 or 6. And when the bell dings on to the next topic, we go. In no particular order. If you could select Mo'unga and Aaron Smith to play for the All Blacks this year, would you? Because they look as though they're going to be playing the British and Irish Lions. A whole lot of stuff has come out this week about Liam Lawson, Red Bull, F1, Christian Horner. We'll discuss that. Raiders Sharks tonight. What a game to kick off round 5, the NRL. Being stranded on 99 not out yesterday. Poor old Mitch Hay. And Marco Rojas described on Radio New Zealand as a Kiwi legend. I want to take issue with this. The America's Cup as well. Let's start with the America's Cup because that's how I began the show. Yes or no, was the America's Cup ever coming back to Auckland?
I'm going to be as diplomatic as I possibly can. If certain parties came together and they did their best to make something happen for Auckland, maybe. It was never going to wash over that well with the public if we had have managed to have gotten the hosting rights, had Auckland managed to, because there's no way that New Zealand would be happy, I think, with the government spending so much money on it when there's so many other issues at play, which is the case with any sporting event, even if it was the Rugby World Cup, even if it was the Men's FIFA World Cup, which the New Zealand football CEO Andrew Bracknell said a couple of years ago.
When.
It's a matter of when, not if we host it.
No, it's not.
So I never expected it to happen. And when the news came out, I thought, I'm not shocked. And I actually think a lot of Kiwis aren't surprised either.
No, look, I think anyone who genuinely thought that it was going to happen, I just don't know.
It is a shame, though. It is a real shame.
It's a real shame. And I wish that it was happening here.
It should be in New Zealand.
But it's not going to be in New Zealand next time after the next time either. It's going to be in Europe where all the money is, or it's going to go to the Middle East where even more of all the money is. That's just how that's what the event is about. And it needs a bigger audience, and we just can't provide that at the moment. On to the next one we go. Yes! Smith and Mo'unga at 9 and 10. Now, the interesting bit to add to this is that Richie Mo'unga, in an interview on the weekend, says he wants to come back to New Zealand to play rugby with an eye on the 2027 Rugby World Cup. These two guys are obviously still playing at a level that is competitive enough for Phil Waugh, CEO of Rugby Australia, to suggest that if he can get them out of Japan, and he says that they are eligible and they should be available to play against the British and Irish Lions, that means that they are still of the standard. If they were available to Scott Robertson, would they be your starting 9 and 10 for the All Blacks?
No, probably not.
Aaron Smith?
No, I don't know. No, because we've got a replacement in Roy Gard. Well, not a replacement. He is the guy at the moment. I've said this a couple of times on this podcast. I get really annoyed with the fanfare attached to Richie Mo'unga. Not that he's not a good player. He's a superb rugby player. We know that, and he was great for the All Blacks in 2023. Prior to the 2023 season and the World Cup,
we had our doubts.
But he hadn't nailed down that jersey ahead of Beauden Barrett. So we need to stop acting like he was Dan Carter, where he had that jersey whenever he wanted it, essentially.
I like the fact, though, if that was part of, and that these names could be added, it puts pressure on all the other guys. And then if you've got Mo'unga, Barrett and McKenzie to choose from, for the All Blacks first 5 for this year against the South Africans. That's a hell of a lot better for me than having just 2 to choose from. That means that those guys are all going to have to up their game.
Yeah.
And that's good for the All Blacks.
Yeah.
That's all I'm thinking of. I'm not saying that Mwanga comes back, he naturally gets the jersey. But if he comes back and wants to get the jersey for 2027, that's really good news for New Zealand rugby.
Yeah, to play both sides. Last year, Beauden Barrett was playing in Japan, wasn't he, at the start of the year? And he said that he wants to be the All Blacks first 5. And at least for the short cameo against the Brumbies, when he was put back in that position, he looked really, really good this year.
And remember last year at the beginning, Mackenzie said he wanted to be the first 5.
Well, because, and Mackenzie didn't play well enough and lost the jumper.
Against Ireland.
Well, yeah, he got it back.
He got it back. He played bloody well.
I don't know. I personally, I don't like the idea. I don't like the idea of losing someone kind of setting up for the future more or less and then going back to it. I just don't. It feels muddy. I don't like it.
How about Lester Whanganuku?
Well, we different.
Lost him. He's coming back.
No, but he's coming back. He's already coming back. You're talking about Mwanga and Smiths being in Japan but being available to the All Blacks. It's a different kettle of fish. Mwanga's actually coming. Whanganuku's coming back and playing for the Crusaders.
What a prospect too.
Yeah, well, I mean, how do you fit him in? We've got too many outside backs. Too many. We always have too many. It's not new.
Play him at centre, mate.
Well, this is the thing. He played centre for the Crusaders. People act like he can't.
Play him at centre.
But he played there for the Crusaders.
We need a new combination at second 5 and centre because it ain't working and it hasn't worked and it's not as good as we need it
now,
to
can I just quickly, Whanganuku's not too much different from Rieko Ioane.
Well, let's give him a go, though. We know what Rieko Ioane is going to do for the All Blacks at centre. We have seen it.
Yeah, but I don't think we're going to get anything.
He's not going to be a different player.
I don't think we're going to get anything too
I'd
different.
like to have a go. I'd like to have a try. Because, Rieko Ioane, as good a player as everyone says he is limited as an All Black centre because he's just got no vision and he can't set up the outside and we need somebody that is capable of doing that.
It's pretty cool, though, that these All Blacks players are going to be available for the Anzac team. It's quite cool. Well, these ex-All Blacks.
Well, see, I think the fixtures are fast, to be perfectly
honest.
No,
I think it's great. It's something just a bit different and interesting. I think it's great. But I think there needs to be rules around who actually gets to play. Like, you can't have, like, your 30 best All Blacks or Wallabies players playing for it. You've got to have bench guys or, I don't know, C-grade guys.
Christian Horner says that they had Liam Lawson's mental health uppermost in mind when they made the decision to dump him unceremoniously after 2 races. Liam Lawson says he wished he had more time in the car and that he could have figured the car out. Yuki Tsunoda says it's an easy car to drive.
Yeah, he said that on the simulator.
And this has all come out this week. And also, Yuki says he wishes that him and Liam could be friends again. I don't know if they were ever friends, and I don't know if you're ever friends with any other driver.
No, they are good friends.
Are they?
And they've driven together and they've risen up through the ranks. He didn't say that they're not friends. He said that the friendship's not the same. And
how can it be? You're competing with this guy.
Of course, it's like Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg. They were great mates, and then that relationship fell apart when they were teammates at Mercedes.
Were Fernando and Michael Schumacher ever great mates?
Fernando?
Alonso?
I don't think they were ever teammates.
Weren't they?
No.
Did they just ram each other off the track?
No, Michael did that. Who did Michael do that to in 1998 or 97 or late 90s, and he got disqualified from the entire championship?
I think he did it to his brother as well, didn't he?
He probably did.
That's how they play.
Well,
this is how these guys play.
That's why Ferrari was smart when they had Michael and Rubens Barrichello.
Oh, sorry, Barrichello I was thinking.
They had it in the contract that Barrichello, you're number 2. We'll give you a race win. You'll get a bonus here and there.
That's it.
But you're not winning the championship. No, Michael's winning.
Michael wins it.
But back to Lawson and Horner, I think... there's a lot of sort of glossing over Liam Lawson, and I think what he's gone through over the last couple of years in New Zealand. We sort of butter him up a little bit too much, but we do this with our athletes, which is totally fair enough.
Because we want them to be successful on the world stage.
He's done well, but I think it's important to be objective that he didn't perform, and obviously something's gone on for Red Bull to think that, no, we're better off with Yuki in this car than Liam.
Well, there's 10 million reasons as to why,
exactly.
Isn't there?
I mean, you talk about the nationality of the new driver and the engine suppliers, so that's obvious. But I listened to Christian Horner's interview, and I just sort of didn't buy any of it, where he's talking about, we were so worried about Liam's well-being, and he made a comment that was really interesting where he said, it takes these drivers time. We saw it with Alex Albon at Red Bull, we saw it with Pierre Gasly, Daniel Ricciardo to an extent, and in my head I'm going, Christian, you're listing drivers that you've put in the second seat and then taken out, so you're admitting that you keep making a mistake here.
Yeah, of course. And also, here's this, for to throw a rattlesnake into it, Perez has now put his hand up and says, he
wants to come back.
I wouldn't mind coming back.
Well, he's apparently in talks with Cadillac, but he said that he's also talking to some other teams.
Yeah. Chance of him coming back to Red Bull?
Well, no. He won't
because Max is going to go. Max is out.
Well, exactly.
According to Ralph,
the rumor mill's been swirling that that was, I think, Juan Pablo Montoya said that
right,
Max is
Montoya.
going to Aston Martin. He's going to be leaving. Then again, Max has been I don't want to say linked, but the talk of him going to Mercedes has kind of bubbled away for years, like back since like 2019. So
I like the word objective you used there because Radio New Zealand, in a story that they did yesterday, need to be taken to task over this, because when it comes to talking about New Zealand sport, and one of the hardest things that we find to do on this podcast is to get anyone to talk about the Warriors objectively, for example, right? Everyone is bought and paid for in this country. Trying to get any ex-Warrior to talk, they won't say anything about the club other than sugar-coated stuff. And every other commentator, all the ones they use on Sky, exactly the same, right? Yeah. Everyone's just painting it with roses.
I hate the Warriors, so I'm on the other side of the spectrum.
But, it's just really difficult to get somebody. We've had Graham Lowe on the program. I thought he was really honest about the performance against the Tigers, and a whole lot of Warriors fans get upset about that because he's not sitting there blowing smoke up the backside. This is not the point of this. The whole point of it, we're meant to discuss sport, and if you don't agree with it, that's okay. But Radio New Zealand yesterday writing a story about Marco Rojas and the fact that his contract's been ripped up by the Phoenix. That's because he hasn't played, because he's been injured the whole time. Described him as a Kiwi legend. Now, talking about bandying words around, since whenever was that guy ever a Kiwi legend? He's not a Kiwi legend. He's not a Kiwi football legend, which means he's not a Kiwi legend.
Yeah, I got to say,
come on.
You and I share a similar opinion of Marco Rojas. If someone wants to sit there and talk about how great a player or prospect he was and things he achieved at the Melbourne Victory, fine, I'm open to hearing it, because
that was in the A-League and it was about 15 years ago, wasn't it?
He got that play. I think he was named Player of the Year in the 12-13s. It was a while ago.
10 years ago at least.
But to call him a legend is a bit of a stretch.
Come on.
If he's a legend, then what's Chris Wood? Oh my God.
This is it. So this is, yesterday we learned that Stuff have signed a commercial partnership deal with the Phoenix, which basically means what? They're just going to write puff pieces about them in exchange for getting interviews with players that then get clickbait clicks. It's really frustrating. I've worked in this industry for 27 years, and it's never been as bad as this, where the media are just basically bought by whatever sporting organisations they are, so that those organisations never write any critical, analytical pieces anymore.
So it's a good point, because
and if that's what you want, promotional puff pieces, fine, but you're not going to get them here.
NZME and the Herald have a lot of them with a variety of teams and competitions, and they often will make a press release about them or the club or the team that they're partnered with. Like one popular one is the Herald, and the Warriors have a partnership going on. I think they have one with the Auckland FC as well, actually.
And New Zealand Rugby.
I just need to get my head around it, because it's so... I don't want to sit there and say it's blatant bias to the teams and they'll never be critical.
What else is it?
Well, but what is it? Why do teams and organisations have these partnerships?
Because then the people that own those media just write promotional pieces about them. That's why they do it.
But there's nothing independent about your work.
No, of course not.
As a newsroom or as journalists.
None of these sporting teams want independent analysis.
But it doesn't. This is the thing: is being a journalist or being in the media and doing this job
these days, isn't it?
Well, these days it is.
Yeah.
But I was taught this at uni. It's the fourth estate. You're the watchdog of society.
It's not
You're
anymore.
Independent. You don't pander to anyone.
That's why 70% of the people don't trust what they see and hear and read because of this, because it's all commercial partnerships. Anyway, Radio New Zealand, please. Come on. You can describe Marco Rojas as anything you like except a Kiwi legend. Yes! Raiders Sharks tonight. 10 o'clock. Kicking off round 5 of the NRL. Raiders 2-2. Sharks 2-2. Both lost last weekend.
Yeah, differing 2-2. So the Raiders looked dynamite after the first 2 rounds, and then they've looked...
They've lost their last 2.
They've looked bad in those losses as well. Whereas the Sharks are a bit...
They lost the first, won the next 2.
Yeah, but the Sharks haven't looked as bad. They were good against South City. They were just outplayed by Canterbury. I just look at this game, and I just feel like this is a Raiders win. It's just the kind of game that they would win. After losing to the Cowboys last week, they got killed by Manly 2 weeks ago, but then they beat the Broncos in round 2, and then obviously...
And did it well against the Broncos.
They did. They played really well against us. We were outplayed. So it feels like when this team is up, when you don't expect them to be, and they're down when they shouldn't be down, and this right now feels like, well, based on their form, they should lose this, so naturally they're probably going to win. Cronulla still, I'm not anti-Cronulla the way that you say I am, but I just feel a little bit nervous after last week's performance where they were thoroughly outplayed by the Bulldogs. Thoroughly. So I'm actually leaning towards the Raiders in this game.
Let's add one more to it. And I'm all aboard my Blues train from here on in.
Ooh, they got players back.
They got players back.
They got many players back.
Yeah, a lot of players back. Poor old Offa, who's out now for the rest of the Super Rugby season.
He's having surgery on his neck.
Yeah.
What does that do for the All Blacks test season?
Well, exactly.
Because it's about 2 months until that French test.
Yeah.
I think if you're getting your neck surgically repaired,
it's not
that's
like he doesn't
than 2
need it. I mean,
months.
that's what his whole the way he plays is about his neck.
Yes,
isn't it?
His neck and back and
everything
being,
Yeah. But the Blues, my Blues, they got a few players back now.
I want to leave. I feel
Against
sick
my
hearing that.
Canes this weekend.
You going
What
to
a
the game?
matchup that's going to be.
I'm going to the game.
You are?
Yep. And
then the Chiefs Reds on Friday night. What a couple
Reds
of
Friday
brilliant
night.
games. What a fantastic weekend.
no Warriors. What a great weekend.
Oh, please.
Yes.
Warriors get 2 points for the bonus.
2 points for doing nothing.
8 points from the first 5 games. Take that every single start to every single season.
So who have they played?
See, this is
Killed by Canberra. Fair play, beat Manly, but
Well
I
beat
think
Manly.
we can all
Manly.
agree that was not
comfortably
a good,
accounted for
not
the
a good
Roosters. And did it easy against the Tigers.
Comfortably, that's not true. And against the Tigers, look,
got the win.
That's what matters.
That's
but
what
just
matters.
wait. Look, I'm not anti. I don't like the Warriors at all. I really don't like the club. But to be isolating this season, just let's celebrate. Just wait till you play.
As
I said this the other day. Melbourne, the Broncos, Cronulla, Canterbury, who look good.
Okay.
Wait till you play
More of
those
that.
teams. Penrith as well. They're down, but they're not going to be down for long.
Early in the season, but a great position to be in.
Blues Canes is a tricky one to pick that back to that. I'd lean towards putting some money on the Blues, but I hope there's a good crowd as well, because it's meant to be good weather on Saturday. It's put today in Auckland. It was yesterday. I think it's meant to be tomorrow, but I think Saturday's meant to be good. So hopefully the sun's out. But come on, Blues. Beauden Barrett's back. Tui Pelotu's back. Loose Fords are back. Let's go.
This is the DSPN